Well, hello and welcome to the Matt Powers Show. I am its titular character, Matt Powers, a former superhero of stardom from the 90s and 2000s who unfortunately has lost his superhero license and now, as an elder millennial, podcasts from his mother's basement. Yes, I have fallen that far. But it is a nerd culture podcast that we all have grown to know and love. We talk about things like video games and comic books and cartoons and movies and, even sports and music if we get around to it. There's all sorts of things to talk about. But today in specific, there's a big thing that happened. A new Venom trailer dropped for Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Now, this is not deja vu. If you remember listening to me talk about a Venom trailer like a month ago, you'd be right. We had a new trailer, well, it was a couple months ago. We had a new trailer a couple months ago, and all of a sudden, a brand new trailer has dropped out of nowhere with a lot more footage and kind of really showing us Carnage and the battle that's to come. So let's talk about it for a few minutes here. I want to start all this by saying this. This trailer has turned me around completely on Venom 2. Okay? So let's back up a little bit. I started reading SpiderMan comics when I was in high school. Okay, so about the year 2000, midway through high school, and he became like my favorite superhero character for a very long time. I think he was my favorite character well into my 30s. And not that he isn't one of my favorites now. I just now that I'm older and I don't know. There's other characters. I've also stopped reading a lot of the newer comics from Marvel and DC. Because there's just so much of it, and unfortunately, because there's so much, they don't keep with continuity as much anymore. So it's difficult. You read for 20 years, and all of a sudden, stuff doesn't match up anymore. But that's an argument for another video. So I have always been very critical of superhero movies where they do movies for the villains. Okay, not because they can't make good ones, but because for the most part, I feel like the villains are great because they're in the movies with the heroes. They always juxtapose. A villain's always purposefully showing what the hero's motives are and challenging the hero's overall beliefs and how and I don't know. I just really like it when villains and heroes fight each other in a hero's film. So I wasn't a big when they first said they were going to do a Venom movie. I was not on board. Now, Venom was not one of my favorite characters. He's not one of my favorite villains. But also that's because when I started reading Spider-Man comics, there wasn't a lot of Venom. That was at a time when they weren't doing Venom a lot. That was after his big debut in the 90s and before sort of a resurgence of Venom in the late 2000s. So he just wasn't a character I read a lot. He wasn't a character that I enjoyed as much. And Carnage was nowhere to be seen. So when they said they were going to do a Venom movie, I thought, well, I don't know. I don't know. He's an anti-hero, but he's really a villain. I don't know, and I don't know if it's going to stand up. Also, this is Sony, who notoriously ruins Spider-Man franchise films. Not all of them, but they always seem to stick their nose in when they shouldn't and really screw up a good Spider-Man movie. The Tobey Maguire films, the first two, I think are gold. Don't hold up as well as you wish they would. I think there's a little bit of nostalgia with people when they kind of look back on them. I've recently rewatched them, and they're just in a post MCU world, in a post Avengers Endgame world, they're just not as good. But that's okay. They're still great films. They're still fun films. They're still iconic in what they did. But of course, as we all know, Spider-Man 3 is a mess, and is a mess because of Sony. Because Sony put their freaking thumb down on the director, on Sam Raimi, and said, no, you got to put Venom in there, and you got to do this and that. An Amazing Spider-Man, I think the first film is decent. I don't think it's great, but I think it's okay. It's good. I enjoyed the Lizard as the villain. I enjoyed seeing Gwen Stacy and Captain Stacy as opposed to Mary Jane. Yeah, I get the criticisms. I get the Andrew Garfield is too cool to be Peter Parker. Yeah, maybe. He does get cooler when he's in college in the comics anyway, but no, I agree. Andrew Garfield played a very cool, more like, I don't want to say the Ultimate Spider-Man, because Ultimate Peter Parker wasn't that cool either. But he did play a different interpretation of Parker. But the movies weren't terrible. Or that movie, Amazing Spider-Man, wasn't terrible. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a mess. And I loved what they did. I loved almost everything about that film. It's a mess of a film. And again, it's Sony pushing their thumb down, saying we want to make a Sinister Six movie. So we gotta set it up in this film. And guys, just tell a good Spider-Man story. Tell a bunch of good Spider-Man stories. Then you could do a Sinister Six story. Whatever. So when they said they were gonna do Venom, I was like, all right, well, I'm sure it'll be great. Yeah. But then I watched it. And you know what? Venom's not bad. It's not a great. It's not like the perfect superhero film or anything. It's not even a great superhero film, but it's good. It's definitely watchable on my list. I'll have to go back and do a review on it, but I'm fairly certain the review I give on it would say it's watchable. I had no expectations for it, so all it could do was succeed in my eyes, right? It wasn't gonna let me down at all. But there were criticisms, right? Oh, it was too dark during the fight scenes, and the two Venom characters fighting, it was a mess. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes they make decisions in the film that don't make any sense. Yeah, I agree. It's PG-13, so we really don't get to see any of the violence that Venom can get up to. Yeah, I agree. But hey, you know what? That's Hollywood, man. You guys know you're not going to get the rated R Venom movie you always wanted. You got to stick with a PG-13 version. And for PG-13, I thought they did pretty well. It was very much like X2, right? Where Wolverine goes berserk on those guys invading the mansion. We don't see a lot of gore and blood, but he does go berserk, and we do see him kill a bunch of people. So at least there was that, right? So that's kind of how I felt about it. I was like, oh, okay, it was fine. My kid liked it more than me. He really loved it. And okay, that's fair, because he's 9. That's really the target audience of this film, not a guy that's almost 40. But okay, it was fun. But then I saw that tag at the end. So spoiler alert if you haven't seen Venom. It's a 6-year-old film, so go watch it. But the tag at the end is setting up Cletus Cassidy becoming Carnage, which is basically he's a serial killer who gets the Venom symbiote in him and becomes literally the most dangerous creature on Earth. There's no way they can make Maximum Carnage. There's no way they can make it as a rated R film. There's no way they can make the insanity of Carnage look good in a PG-13 film, is what I thought. And I was not excited for it. I was like, Carnage, great, yay, woo. And then that first trailer came out, and it was decent, right? It was like, oh, this is I'm kind of excited for this now. But guys, this second trailer, wow. Okay, first off, they seem to have listened to the criticisms of the first film, right? There's more light in each of the scenes. We can actually see Carnage and Venom and the details on the characters as they're fighting. Also, them fighting looks amazing, right? These two giant Venom symbiotes battling each other looks absolutely freaking bananas, right? It looks so good. I love that they finally, they took the loser of Eddie, and they said, Venom, you and Venom don't get along. Venom wants to eat people. He is a sociopath. And that Eddie is constantly trying to reel him in. And I like that. I like that they're building on that dynamic and showing the back and forth. Guys, everything about this trailer hit for me. Okay? It totally hit. And it's turned me around. It's made me like, I do want to go see this movie in the theaters. I want to see this movie this year. It's going to be... I'm positive it's going to be meh, right? It's going to be watchable. It's going to be just like the first one. It's going to be good. It's not going to be great. It's going to be what it is. But as long as that's what it is, then that's fine, man. I just want to sit in a theater, munching popcorn, drinking a Slurpee, and watching a bunch of cool stuff on the screen, and then be done with it. That's my enjoyment out of all this, right? It doesn't have to live up to the comics. It doesn't have to live up to the cartoons. It just has to be fun and interesting. And this trailer makes it look fun. I'm also surprised that we got another trailer this soon after the first trailer, and also considering I don't think Venom comes out until October, so there was plenty of time. You could have waited another month before dropping this trailer. I don't know. What do you guys think? So if you're listening to this, hopefully you've watched the trailer. What do you think? Are you excited for Venom 2? Are you excited for Let There Be Carnage? Are you excited to see a PG-13 version of Carnage on screen? Do you wish it was rated R? Do you wish that there be at least maybe a cut of it for streaming and DVD that's rated R? Maybe not for the theaters, but for home viewing. I I don't know, man. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment below. Send me an email, davidcampproductions@gmail.com. Be happy to respond to any emails. Maybe we do another video if you guys send me enough emails. Or just put the comments below. We can engage that way. I'm really excited to see what they can do with this. They really kind of have turned me around. I'm never the biggest fan of a villain movie because, for the most part, I don't think villains should be in their own films. They're interesting characters, but I think you need the hero to make the villain work. Now, that being said, was Joker a good film? Yeah, Joker was a decent film, you know? Was Venom a good film? Yeah, Venom was a decent film. I'm sure Morbius will be a decent film. I'm sure Craven will be a decent film. Maybe we found the formula for making good villain films, right? So let's hope that's that. But then, meanwhile, you have superhero films where the villains aren't done very well in the first place. It's like you could have made the superhero film the villain film, you know? Like you could have done a good villain film that way. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling. Guys, let me know below what you think, what you thought of the trailer. Are you excited for this film? Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Guys, I hate saying it, right? But it does help. It really does. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming and listening to me today. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me to the email address below. And as always, this is Matt Powers signing off by saying, nerd out.
Through the vortex!